The 10th of June 2011, 9:30 p.m. Greencastle, Indiana. We were standing on the deck smoking. My daughter had brought our grandson to the farm for the weekend. We noticed a light in the distance flying up and down, kind of bouncing across the sky. We had a 1,000,000 candle watt power flashlight. My daughter said, "Hey, do and so signal to that light," so we did. The ship dropped below the trees, came back up and flew right at us. It flew over the north side of the farm, then flew over the barn. It was flat black. We did not need binoculars to see it. It could have landed on the barn with no problem. It then changed direction and headed toward us 40. On the back was an octagon-shaped light. It was glowing red-orange and you could see fluid moving in it. My daughter left and said she followed it until she turned off in Danville, Indiana onto 39. It flew toward Plainfield, Indiana. We see UFOs there all the time.
The 21st of March 2021, 10:15 p.m. Cloverdale, Indiana. So I was walking out of work on March 21st. I noticed a bright goldish light over Interstate 70 about NW. I thought it was just a planet that was bright that night. When I got into my car, I was replying to a few texts and then set some bags into my back seat. I could see out of the back door window that light was closer and moving. I get out of my car and stare at this light for 30 or 40 seconds. I was trying to see any evidence of an aircraft, but I saw no flashing light, red light, or green light. No visible sign of wings and no helicopter sounds. No sound whatsoever. Once the object was closer to the store, I could clearly see a dim thing light along the object, giving it a disc shape with a pulsing light moving around the object. I went to get my phone out of the car to get a video of it. The object was over the store by the time I got my phone. I could see what I could describe as a bluish-green aura, but the light seemed warped. Like how black holes are described to distort and warp light, that is how it looked like. I immediately started to record some of the event to get evidence so people would believe me. Shortly after my video, the object disappeared behind the tree line. Either it was too far out or it descended behind the trees. This isn't the only kind of experience from the area. For years now, locals and tourists have described a gold, orange, or Cooper-like lights in the area. Flashing lights from the woods like lightning have been reported without a single storm or cloud that night. I am glad I caught some evidence of what we have been seeing for years off and on.
The 1st of November 2021, 6:45 p.m. Greencastle, Indiana observed two orange lights that were larger than stars vertical to each. They were joined by third light. The three lights formed a triangle. As I moved closer, I observed a string of orange lights in a straight line behind the original three. There were approximately 8 to 10 additional lights. The first three slowly receded before disappearing from view. They sort of shrunk then blinked out, if that makes sense. The rest in the line did the same.
The 7th of January 2022, 6:15 p.m. Reelsville, Indiana. There were 4 strings of 5 lights, each string in a soft S shape. White, red, white, and a green string above. There was also a large single red flashing light on the trailing end. It was flying, silently, almost directly to the north. Many times in past months I have seen a small cluster of lights, always in the same SW location, and always stationary. I was like that small cluster of lights I have been seeing suddenly grew closer and began to move.
October 30th, 1996, Reelsville, Indiana. It was an orb with a deep red color and about the size of a softball. I was standing in my front yard when I saw it in the field across the road. It moved very slowly across the tree line. It took about 15 minutes for it to get across. After it crossed the road, it went past me toward the corner of my house and disappeared. Investigators' comments. Witness described orb came within 30 to 40 feet away and went past the corner of the witness house. Witness went to corner of house and the object was gone. There was no wavering or dimming of object. Witness states she asked neighbors about object but no one else saw it. The witness was very knowledgeable and articulate about aircraft in the area. was very insistent in stating she never had this type of experience before.
The 11th of February 2000 near Cloverdale. No time given. Near intersection, 2 witnesses watch a lighted object as large as a 2-story barn with a ring of red lights that moved away up and behind a tree line as they approached.
March 10, 2008 time. 12 a.m. midnight, Greencastle, Indiana. In the fall of last year, my father sighted a large craft flying slowly over our house after midnight. We've both seen this craft several times since, but the sightings stopped before New Year's 2008. Around March 10th of this year, I heard the same sound that accompanied this craft again. It was shortly after midnight, and I was watching television. I ran outside and saw the craft over the house. I thought it was military, but it was too large to be of earthly origin. It was Y-shaped, 100 yards long, but moved slowly, almost in a hover. It was dark, covered with what resembled hull plating, and had a large band of blue lights along its midsection. It made a sound like a very low hum which you could feel in your chest. The craft hovered for a few minutes, and then moved slowly east until it was no longer in my range of vision. The first time we sighted it, we were perplexed. Now we're concerned, because of the frequency of the sightings since. The craft seemed very interested in our neighborhood. On every night before we've seen the craft, we felt like we were being watched. The feeling that makes the hair on your neck stand on end. Investigators note, both witnesses claim to have heard and seen this UFO several times over the past month. First indications are extremely low hum that gets louder as the UFO approaches. When it appears overhead, the hum can be felt in chest and stomach. UFO appears as a gigantic Y shape with the leg of the Y leading. Several blue and green lights, steady on, can be seen on the leading leg of the Y. Lights are reflected on the gray hull plating, and there is a strange I-shaped protuberance at the juncture of the legs. The object passes directly overhead at about 1,000 feet and travels at a jogging pace until out of sight.
Year, 2006 season, summer month, August state, Indiana County, Putnam County. Location details. It was at Glen Flint Lake. The area where the sounds came from were at the end of the cove we were in, straight out from the boat ramp to the left before you get into the main lake area. Nearest town, Greencastle. Nearest road, US 36. Observed. My girlfriend and I were fishing on Glen Flint Lake in Putnam Co. I would say it was about 1 a.m. We heard a coyote or coyotes barking and making yipping noises. Then we heard several loud grunt-like noises, almost moan-like, very loud, similar to what a bear sounds like. Then a coyote let out a scream-like sound, like it was getting hurt. Then it got quiet. I pulled up our anchors and left. I have camped all over the United States. I've camped in remote parts of Canada. I have never heard anything like that. I was actually a little scared. Whatever it was big. To this day I still believe it was a Bigfoot. If I had to guess, the coyote didn't make it. Also noticed, I have been there since, and heard a grunt similar to what we heard that night. But it wasn't several, just one loud one, almost moan-like. Other witnesses. My girlfriend Tabitha. Other stories. I just read about sounds that someone hears who posted on this website. It sounds like they live close to where heard the sounds. Time and conditions. It was warm, around 1 a.m., calm. A nice summer night for fishing environment. A public fishing and recreational lake.
Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Eric Lester. I spoke to the witness by phone about what he heard that night. He decided to submit his experience after reading report number 25,237, which is very near this area. The sounds he heard occurred about 500 yards away from them. The coyotes were yipping and barking for 30 to 40 seconds before the first grunt moans were heard. They were described as loud and lasting about a half second each. These grunt moans ended after about 15 to 30 seconds, and nothing else was heard. The witness stated that he has much camping experience and some encounters with bears. He seems to think the grunt moans are similar, but not quite identical, to what a bear can make. Glen Flint Lake is a recreational lake built in the 1970s, and is in the same area as Van Bibber Lake. This area also contains many streams and creeks. Year: 2008 season. Winter month: December. State: Indiana. County: Putnam County. Location details: 1 hour west of Indianapolis on US 36, before US 231. Farmland, fields, and dense woods. Nearest town: Greencastle. In nearest road: US 36, observed. I have reported before on this website. I live in a rural area in west central Indiana. I have heard strange primate-like calls coming from the woods behind my residence for about 18 months. About 2 weeks ago, I heard powerful whooping calls coming from our woods as I was changing a tire on my car at about 10 p.m. These calls were followed by wood knocks. The calls sounded like those I have heard on this site. I have been an amateur Bigfoot researcher for many years, and am convinced that one, possibly more, are inhabiting the woods behind my house. Other witnesses: none. Other stories: other incidents experienced by myself and my father in the same general area. Time and conditions: 1:0 p.m. Dark, clear weather, cold. Environment: heavily forested area, about 180 acres total. Hills, a creek system, and fields surrounding.
Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator Eric Lester. I interviewed the witness by phone about what he, and on some occasions his father, have heard near their home. They started hearing these whoops and howls in the summer of 2006. These sounds always occur at night, sometimes starting after dusk and lasting until 3 to 4 a.m., or starting around midnight, but lasting only an hour or so. Yet there is no set pattern on when these sounds will be heard. In other words, it cannot be predicted when they will occur. The howl is described as starting very low and drawn out, and rising in pitch to a high scream, then tapering off, about 6 to 10 seconds in length. If a response occurs, it is the same type of howl, and usually comes from the opposite side of the woodland behind the house. This happens within a minute of the first howl. The whoops, such as the ones heard while changing his car tire, are quick and high-pitched, usually 3 or 4 at a time. During July of 2008, the witness and a friend camped in the forest behind his house. Prior to settling in for the night, they made their own whoop sounds and wood knocks. About 12:30 a.m. they got 3 to 4 whoops in reply, which sounded about 40 yards away from their camp. These were described as coming from something with a lot of lung capacity. After 10 seconds, the whoops occurred again, along with some movement in the brush from the general direction the noises were coming from. Nothing else happened that night. From another submitted report by the witness, he stated, "What struck me initially was the power behind these calls. It would take an animal with tremendous lung capacity to make them carry like they do." This other report was not published. The area near the home contains many pockets of forests among the farm fields. There are also many small waterways connecting these pockets, and the area is heavily populated with deer and turkey.